And I remember it like yesterday. I remember we were in Munchkinland and you sat on the step and we had stopped for something and I just remember thinking, he looked so tired.
The best musicals have been subversive, have been allegories of something deeper,
yes, something deeper,
in
right.
a reflection or a vision for where we want to be or where we've been or a warning. And I love that this Wizard of Oz, Wicked has always been that.
Yeah.
And when we got in there, we got to like get in the suits.
It's like, what are we doing?
And nobody was paying attention. They're like, yeah, you got to do Wicked, right? We're like, yeah, we're gonna do Wicked.
Yeah, we're gonna do Wicked.
And we got to do our version. Here we are.
Hello.
Hi. I'm Jon M.
And I'm Cynthia Erivo, but you knew that already.
I did know that.
Good.
I knew that, although I called you Elfie on set a lot.
You did call me Elfie on set a lot. Do we also sometimes get mixed up between me and Glinda?
Come on. No,
Sometimes.
never did. I will deny that. This is the first time we've actually like had a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Other than maybe like, I don't know, we had a lot of one-on-ones in text, but never like in a conversation, so it's really nice.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Holding some good space?
Safe.
You guys are crazy. It's so fun to watch.
But the thing is, I think we're just being ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just like, we're experiencing it in real time and being as present as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So the funny things that happen just sort of happen.
Those things happen on set too.
Yeah,
so funny.
all the time.
Yeah, that's what I love is like, I feel like people are coming in to our family now. Like our little weird summer camp that we had. And we were definitely in a bubble. We were in Oz, so we're
very signed off from the rest of the world.
Yeah. And now all the other weird people are coming and joining us.
Come in then,
Exactly.
sure.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
We'll ask some just regular basic questions that maybe we haven't even shared with each other fully.
Yeah.
Like where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where were you born? And how was that? How was growing up?
I'm from London. I was born in London proper, southwest London. Although the South Londoners would just be like, just say South Londoners, because South is where it's at.
Yes,
but I then moved to East London when I was about 14. And that's where I've been most of my life. And apparently it's quite rare to be a Londoner from London. But I was born and bred there, yeah.
I learned that while I moved my whole family to London during our 2 years there, and it was great. We loved it. We loved every moment. My kids went to school there. They learned about war very early in kindergarten, but it was really nice. Was it a creative family?
Not necessarily. My mother raised me. I have a younger sister who's 2 years and 9 months younger than me. My mum says that she's a singer. She's very sweet. But she's not necessarily a singer, though I do love her. But I feel like if she had the chance to be an actress, she'd be very good. But she's a health visitor, so she was a nurse first, and that's what she always wanted to do. She's very good with children, and that was sort of her forte, her expertise.
That makes a lot of sense knowing you, because you are a caretaker.
Yeah, I do like to take care of
You
people.
gave me gifts many times. I was like, this is your day. Why are you giving me a gift? And you love to take care of us all the time.
No, I do. I think it fills me a lot. It makes me feel good to take care of other people. Yeah.
To the point where I'd be like, this is the scene. Don't worry about the wire on the floor. But you always, and the crew loved that, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, someone's going to trip over that.
Yeah.
And it really meant a lot.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think there's just a natural thing, especially when I'm on a set. I'm so aware that everyone's working hard, not just me. I'm so aware that there are people who you might not notice, who are behind the scenes, who don't necessarily get a look in. And so my mind and my awareness says, well, make sure that they feel seen also.
Yeah.
Because all day the camera's on our faces and we're being paid attention to. Makeup is coming over, hair is coming up, and there's a person who's been there for hours and hours and no one's said hello yet. So.
Yeah. And they're there to make the same thing we're trying to make, which I love.
Yeah.
What was the first creative thing? Well, maybe not the first, but what was a memorable creative moment in your youth that really sort of locked you in?
Like a couple of moments actually. So I went and did this strange after-school acting program.
Mm-hmm. What age was this?
I think it was 11.
Okay.
And they did a production of the Caucasian Chalk Circle, which is a little intense, but they turned it into a musical. So we did a musical of the Caucasian Chalk Circle.
Wow.
And I played the Queen. And I just remember loving doing that. And that sort of never left my mind. I loved the way I could become this woman at the age of 11, and this queen at 11 years old, and it just felt really fun and really expressive. So I think that's something that sort of like stuck in my craw. And then I had a really wonderful moment with my music teacher when I was at secondary school. I want to say it was about 14. And she just was like, I know what you should be doing. So I want you to make sure that you don't lose that. So we're going to just put you in everything we can put you in. So every musical thing, I played instruments all the way through secondary school. I was part of the choir. They did a yearly Christmas choir where they joined with a professional choir, and we would always do choral pieces, big choral pieces. So
with audiences. And
with
everything.
audiences.
So, you felt that
so I'd done
right
everything
there,
from Carmina Burana to the Rata Requiem. And did a solo in the Rata Requiem and Carmina Burana. So it's like and these are big pieces.
Yes.
But it's something that she had implemented within the school and had brought everyone on. It was really something.
Was that voice first, acting first? Or?
Voice first. Voice and instrument first. Okay. I played the clarinet and the viola. For a while, actually.
Did you feel connected to it, or was it just a thing you do as a kid?
No, I loved
I played basketball, but I didn't feel that. I
loved playing the clarinet. I loved playing the clarinet. I miss it, and I hate that I can't remember how to do it because I was very good. But I loved the sound of it. And then it was voice first always, but it was in tandem with playing the instrument. But you can't sing and play the clarinet at the same time. Yeah. So I had to let one go and continue with the voice. Nice. Yeah. And then acting came after.
Did you feel connected? Because I always say that when you came into the room for Elphaba, the voice, like I've heard you on YouTube, I've seen, I saw you in Color Purple. I was there when the whole audience stands up. That's something you have an ability to do. I don't know what it is. I call it like direct connection to everybody's soul. You've jacked into the system in some way. Do you feel, and I always say it's spiritual, like it's a gift.
It does feel spiritual.
When did you feel that happen?
I think I started feeling that happen probably when I was about 15. And I think it was at secondary school. So, and I talk about those choral pieces, when I was giving those solos, I always felt like it was more than just singing the song. It was about expressing a moment and an emotion, a feeling, an idea, and I've always felt like that. And the older I got, the clearer it got for me, and the more I understood it, and also the more I understood how to use it. I feel like the connection to people and the connection to what people feel when I sing is addictive for me. So I'm always searching for connection. I never want to just sing a song because that feels empty. So I search for what the connection mainframe might be.
I think that's 100%. I mean, I feel that on the other side of that.
I like looking into people's eyes. They're finding them when I sing.
I always think like, oh, she hears things differently. When she walks in the room, she hears the heater, she hears the thing.
Yeah, I do.
When I would be like, hey, let's go back to that moment where you sing it, and I would try to sing it, and I would be like, oh, no. She's like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Is that true? Are you
not other
don't
people's
sing?
Voice. No, not other people's voices, but I do hear things very differently. My hearing is quite acute. So I it's not that I get distracted easily. I just can hear everything very clearly. So I know that there is like, I can hear air going off right now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like little things. I know that someone just used something over there. I can hear I can hear all those small tiny things just because my ears are always listening.
Yes.
And sometimes that's wonderful.
Don't filter that out this time, guys.
I know. And other times it's not like nails on a chalkboard, but can be very overwhelming. Yeah. Because I have a couple of different things, and we can go into that later, but for me, my hearing is really crazy, and Ari's hearing is very crazy as well, which is why we click, but I also, because I can see colour, you see colour aura, I remember we talked about that.
Yes.
And I see colour in music. So depending on the song or the note, I see a color. So the
fascinating.
combination of the two can be very like overwhelming for me, which is why I remember when we would talk. Sometimes I would be like, I can't hear. I know you're saying something, but I cannot hear what you're saying because everything else is playing in my head, and I can hear everything else. Which is, I would love. It was always a really wonderful thing because we talk about being safe, but I always felt really seen whenever I could tell you that, because then you would help me hear you. And then Carsten, our camera operator, said to me, "Oh, I know what you're feeling because my son has the same thing." So it was like an interesting journey to be able to figure out how my senses work to make sure that I could connect.
Yeah,
but we're moving far away from. We haven't heard about you. Before we move any further on,
fine.
I want like where were you born? What was your first sort of creative inspiration?
Yeah. I was born in Los Altos, California, which is in the heart of the Bay Area of the Silicon Valley in the 80s and 90s. And during that time, it was like technology was like on the cusp. Not everyone had it yet, but you could feel that everyone was looking for tomorrow. Everyone was building what tomorrow would be. And I grew up in a Chinese restaurant. My parents started a restaurant, came over from China. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And this restaurant was like bustling with people with dreams and ideas. And I'd be doing my homework at the bar, and I'd be listening to all these stories. And my parents would be telling stories of all the kids. And I went to musicals all the time. I took tap classes for 12 years with my sister, and drum, saxophone, violin. I wasn't good at any of them. But you know, when you're young and you are attracted to storytelling, because we watched a lot of movies, there's no real avenue in. Maybe now, because everyone has a cell phone and a camera, but back then, like nobody understood editing.
No.
I couldn't just get something, and so theater was sort of the only way in. I mean, I played the Asian Oliver, and I played. I did a lot of those.
I was the Apple Dodger.
Oh yes. Oh, we could do this. We could take this on the road. Let's go. Where is love? No, I won't do that. Oh gosh, it's nails on a scrap.
No, it's not.
I'm so sorry.
It was very great.
Anyway, my friends were theater people. I went to theater, and I loved them. I just wasn't one of them.
Right.
And I had a camera, and so I loved that. But I remember the first time I felt power in it wasn't even making movies. It was the 6th grade gets to make a haunted house for all the other grades. And it's like a big thing, and everyone gets very excited. And all the parents come for a meeting, and we're all sitting there, and she's like, "Hey, we get to do it. What do you guys want to do?" And nobody had any ideas. I, the night before, had drawn out a map of what this haunted house would be. I was imagining, oh my gosh, and there's going to be a hallway of hands, and there's going to be this thing, and Frankenstein, and we're going to do fire, and I raised my hand timidly, and I was like, I can draw it on the board, and I drew it on the board, and everyone was like, whoa, let's do that, and all the parents like, okay, let's just do that, and we made it, and it was an amazing haunted house. It probably wasn't great, but I'll never forget that because it felt like, oh, people will fall into a vision if you set it.
If you set it, that's right.
And I had never felt that. Nobody listens to the youngest kid. So that was sort of
Except
my first
when they
thing.
do listen to the youngest kid.
Yeah. And I learned every time you set a vision, people will go. They want to find something, and I loved that very much. So,
I love that. I love that even in your like timidity, you were still like, I think I can do this. That's a big, brave thing for any kid to do.
Yeah. I think that's my parents for sure, because my mom, we're a Chinese family. We roll into a restaurant, all the eyes are on us, and their eyes roll back because like, all these kids, they're gonna make a mess. Nobody wants us there. Wherever we are, nobody wants us there. And my mom made us feel like we were kings and queens. Like we are the Kennedys. We deserve to be here. You guys act properly, fold your napkins, don't take your elbows off the table, and we're gonna show all these people that we belong there. So she always drilled that into it. You belong wherever you are. And maybe whenever people look at you, don't worry about that. Just keep moving. And which was helpful for the first half of my life. The second half of life, you gotta fight back a little bit. But I did, and film gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of power to change some of those things. So.
I love your mom.
She's funny.
She's funny.
You guys remind me of each other. I mean, even the way you dress. I mean, this is just,
she gets it.
Everything counts.
And
for her, everything counts. Greatness is in the small things. And I love that. I'm a little bit all over the place, but I like working with people who work on those dudes because I'm like, that's.
You really let me do that though in this. You let me get into like the minutiae and the detail of it. You let me really, and I really feel like that was very helpful for my process to find out who she was and to get into the fabric of her being.
Literally the fabric.
You know, literally.
Literally the shoes. Literally the freckles.
Yeah.
I remember I got a text from you about green eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, green eyes? Is that a great idea or a bad idea? I don't know. I don't know how to respond. And I think I said, like, we'll try some things.
Yeah.
And then we got in the room and it was just a revelation. Why did you text me that day about green eyes?
I don't know.
Where did that come from?
I wanted for her to be just that bit more removed from everybody else. And I have a thing about tonality in color. So, you know, like tonal. I like when tones can work together, but I also think when tones are on the skin and hair and eyes, it makes a person feel a little bit alien-esque. And I wanted for her to feel just a touch more removed from every other human being in that place. That there was something about her that didn't quite fit. And I thought, well, if we're talking about green, how far does the green go? Like, are we talking about just green skin? Or are we talking about the green runs through her DNA? So when her nails grow, they grow green. And her eye color is green because it is a part of her being. It isn't just skin color.
I think at some point we talked about even green in the hair.
In the hair, we did. We talked about that.
We pulled back on that.
Yeah. And I thought, what does it look like if her eyes are green, and does it work? And so that's when I messaged, I was like, can we try a different eye color?
And we did the exploration.
We did.
We had ones that, and my fear, to be honest, was I don't want her to be a creature. I want her to be as accessible.
Yeah.
And you totally understood that. And then we were like, okay, let's find layers of it. And Francis and everybody helped figure out. And we tried a bunch on camera.
Yeah. And then we ended up finding literally a generic pair of
not even the
green
expensive versions.
No, just the versions that you can get at your local Specsavers or your local optometrist.
Yes.
Green lenses, and they worked.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I remember watching the footage. We're on the camera. I'm with Alice, our DP, and I'm watching, and your head sort of rises, and you have the green paint on. You don't have any hair then.
Yeah.
And the freckles and the things. I'm just like, it looks like real skin. It doesn't look like face paint.
Yeah.
And then your eyes open up to us.
Yeah.
And I mean, your eyes without it are amazing, but these eyes allowed us access in a weird way that made it Elphaba. I was like, this is Elphaba. The first time I'm looking at Elphaba.
Yeah.
And I felt you changed with that.
Yeah.
Could you see through it?
I could see perfectly fine. The first couple of days felt, because your peripheral changes, because there is something that is, it's like a tiny blinker on the outside of your eyes. Yeah. But after a while, that sort of drifts away, and you forget that they're there. Yeah. And the optometrist who was on set, Sinead, she would fight me. She was like, we have to change them now. I'd be like, but I'm fine.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with them. She's like, Cynthia, we need to make sure that your eyes are okay. We need to make sure they don't get too dry. We have to change them. Yes. And I'd just be like, we'll do it at the end of the day. It's fine. But the day's like 14 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah. I remember that. She needs to, she's some rest. And you're an athlete out there. I think that people don't really realize that acting feels emotional and you're there, but actually there's such a physical nature, especially for Elphaba. Yeah. The stunt training that you have to do with Joe, our stunt coordinator, the vocals in themselves. You have to work with Stephen Schwartz and that team and figure out how that sounds and what this character does. And you have to work with me in the sets, and then we have to actually go physically and block those things. I think when you make a musical, people don't realize how much that
goes into it.
Yeah.
I also think that I've been joking. I think people have gotten so used to the sound of Elphaba's speaking voice and Elphaba's singing voice that they didn't realize that it's not mine.
Yes.
None of it is my voice.
That's so fascinating.
She's very, very different.
Yes.
And she's a whole different accent. She has a whole nother way of, actually a different way of singing than I do. Yeah. I think because we're so used to the stage and me doing the stage that people don't realize that I've been singing Aretha and Dionne Warwick and all of those styles for such a long time that actually my voice is more used to doing that than than getting in and singing.
Yeah.
Finding the vacillation of what her voice will do with this music is different. I can't do the things I do as me with Elphaba.
Yeah. And it's hard because when we meet, we don't really know each other that well. We have like these inklings of who we are going to match up. And then we get into this process. There's probably a lot of fears on your side about this. I can really mess up your performance. And I have a lot of fear on that. Oh, what does she want to do? How are we going to find each other through this? I mean, I had a good inkling we were going to be fine. And there's a version of Wicked, the movie.
Yes.
Where Elphaba is just a witch. And that's the concept of the joke.
Yeah.
And you every day reminded me that no, her clothes, she's not just the outcast in her family and she wears a frock. Like, they're people of money. Yeah. And so she would have that. And she has self-pride. She would do her nails. She would have jewelry. Yeah. I mean, those things blew my mind from the very beginning. I was like, Elphaba has jewelry. And I had to process like, she has, in order to us want her to have that freedom for herself, she has to have inklings of it for herself at the beginning.
Right. She has to have an autonomy about herself and the way she carries herself. And that doesn't happen unless you have an open-minded person who's directing you. Because you really did let me sort of go as far as I could go. And you were always really, really open with me. And I guess I want to know, how do you overcome the fear that this kind of input would not take us in the wrong direction or move us away from what we're supposed to be doing?
I've been doing this for a long time as a kid, working with friends who didn't want to be shooting anything, and I would be forcing them to turn your head, do this. So I learned how to like puppeteer very early, and I learned the power of the tools that I have. Yeah. And every time I make a movie, I learn something new, and what I've learned is the process is the most amazing thing. It's what I am addicted to. Yeah. It's not even the final product. It's process of bringing people who are smarter than me, who have different angles than me, different ideas. Yeah. And if it's something that I can think of in my room or on my computer, it's just not good enough. Yeah. And so I'm curious about the creative process and how we find things. And the more you do it, and I think that's why experience does matter, because every movie at that level of working with a studio, of waiting for the audience to accept it or not, and having failures, and you get down to the nitty gritty of it's just process, and it's gonna be okay. We're dust in this universe, and let's just make something that feels as truthful to us of our experience as possible. Yeah. And every time I've done that, it has been the best experience, but there's no compromise of what you're trying to say. Yeah. And so I feel very lucky to have gone through many movies before this where I could R&D that and grow that trust. And so by the time getting to Wicked, it was like, I'm going to trust this no matter where it goes. I know we hired each other, we found each other. Yes. So we know we want the same destination. Yeah. Brought in Nathan, Paul, we know what we're trying to do with Alice. We've known each other for 20 years. We want to get truth of this relationship. It's about the girls, stupid. Yeah. But now, however, there's a million ways to get there. Let's just go. And I love every day that it was discovery. It makes it fun. We get to make movies.
We played. I loved that there was always room for play. If you were to think back, was there a moment where you were like, oh, that might be just too far?
All the time. We went too far that I couldn't know. Well, one of the scariest things for me, and I loved this in the end, was the grimmery. Yeah. This it's all very human up to this point. Now we're bringing the sci-fi element of this book, this spiritual book that is going to rise the power of Elphaba. And I didn't know how that would come across in a movie that's been basically pretty darn earthbound, even though it's in Oz. And the moment you started saying that spell, you put I remember looking at the whole crew. We were all looking at each other like, what the is happening? And it was conjuring in you, and your eyes changed, your whole being changed, and I felt this otherworldly spirit in there. And I actually think you got sick.
I got sick that day. I was really not well.
Where did you have to put yourself to even
I don't know.
Start that?
Well, because it started because we had a spell, and then because I'm a weirdo, I was like, what does every one of these words mean? What do the words mean? And then I knew that the spell was not long enough, so I asked to extend the spell. And I remember I spoke to Dominic, I was like, I want to find words that mean what I need to happen. So at that point, it was the spell to give Chistery wings. And I was like, well, I want to find the word for flight or for wings in different languages that feel really connected. And I want to extend this spell so it means so it actually is asking to make something fly or to create wings. Yeah. So when I knew what I was saying, it really was about just like understanding what the phrases were, what I was saying, what I was asking for, what I was trying to make happen. I could actually try to make it happen. Yeah. I could actually say the words. I knew what my focus was. I knew that the energy going into these words was to make flight happen somehow. And I think because I took everything else away and I had a real focus, I just put all of my energy into that and was like on the floor by the end of it. I was like, total.
A lot of people would not take the spell that seriously after having gone through this whole process, but you had to, yeah.
I had to, because it was also like one of the very first true displays of Elphaba's magic. And if we couldn't make that real, then I think the stakes would not be as high as they were. Her talent is her magic. That's what makes her really special. The way she uses magic, the extent of her magic. We keep talking about unlimited, and I truly believe that we have Madame Morrible, whose dominion is over weather and the sky, but we haven't put any limitations on what Elphaba can do. So for me, I was like, well, if she is supposed to be someone who becomes unlimited, and her powers are unlimited, and you don't know where they end and where she can be stopped, then the thing that we introduced to when she does give you magic has to be powerful, has to move the room. No one should be scorned or laughed at or told to keep quiet. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
It also really pays off because, well, you're weaving this very fine line about the reality of the emotions. Yeah. And that right before is one of my favorite moments that I did not expect. It's barely scripted, but this moment that you embraced of when he gives you the green doll. Yeah. And the way you look at it, and in my head it was like, oh, she looks at it and she has to make this decision between what her heart's desires of making maybe not herself green or helping the animals, and she makes a decision. But the way you did it, it was just so heartbreaking. And the camera, if you watch our edit, we just sit there because you're doing so much. And he says, well, it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah. And you say, no. And there's almost sadness in it, but you know you have to do it. And there's bravery in that. And she's like, no, this is for, I need the animal. You try to, you conjure up that bravery, which is also power.
Change it.
And then after, that makes me so happy, there's tears in your eyes. Like, there goes your dream. Like your dream is just like that train is passing.
Off it goes. You have to change it.
Those are the moments that I think people think it's just a movie, but when you see it, you feel that. Yeah. And when we were on set, I was like, this is a real life experience. I don't know what that is, but
I think I always felt like all the decisions she made. It's so interesting. Now I'm thinking about it. There are steps that she makes that move her further and further and further away from the dream that she thought she already has. And every time she makes a decision, it's one step away from the thing that she thought she wanted. That's what I noticed about her. So even in the Audiard ballroom, she has to make that the dream of fitting in, when she does that dance in front of everybody, it's another step away from a dream that she thought she wanted. She doesn't fit in. And in that moment, when she dances in front of everybody on her own, she says, okay, I will never fit in. Fine. That goes away. She goes to the Emerald City, and she goes with the dream of being degreedified, and she meets the wizard, and she is literally, the dream is in her hand, and she realizes, oh, but wait, I remember the thing that happened at Dr. Dillerman's lair, and they need someone, and I could do this and be selfish, but there's more. So, well, I'll let this one go. But it's a big one that just one she's had her whole entire life. And I always felt like decisions like that are not easy, and they're bittersweet. So whenever we did it, I always felt like I have to let one thing go to have something else, which is what we have to do anyway in our lives. Every day. And it's not always a pleasant feeling, but we know that the thing that we're getting is far greater than the thing that we're letting go of, which is why there's that sort of, there's a sadness in it, but then there's happiness, and it happens all at once. You can have both emotions running at once. And so I sort of allowed that to happen. And then again, she has to let go of the dream of the wizard himself. And then has to take it on. So there's the constant letting go of in order to become what she becomes.
And it's so interesting because that's what Glinda is not capable of doing, those little decisions. And I love that, the question in the beginning of the movie is, how does wickedness happen? Are you born with it, or is it thrust upon you? And I love that in our movie, well, we all talked about that we're both good and wicked. And every day our decisions are either good or wicked. And other people's are too. And sometimes we have to give grace to people on those wicked days. But let's hope that we make some more good ones than bad ones. Because wickedness actually, maybe both of those questions, thrust upon you, born with it, is not actually in your power.
No.
That's a passive question or passive answer. There's actually, I think, a third one where that it's that you have to choose it.
Choose it.
And that it happens every day. And you have to make that choice. And actually, wickedness is slow.
Yes.
It
doesn't happen immediately.
Accepting a little bit of cruelty one day.
Yes.
Lying a little bit the next day. Ignoring someone's pain another day. That inches you. It's imperceptible. And that's like a scary place to be. And that's sometimes when I know when we were making this movie, it felt like, where are we personally sliding during this time after COVID? Where the rules are like out the door. Who knows what we're supposed to do anymore? And now in the climate that's out there of like, who are we deciding to be? And how lucky that we as storytellers get the platform of taking the American fairy tale that has told us how to be. Yellow brick road, a man's gonna fix your problems at the end of the road. That we get to re-examine that through these two amazing characters who are struggling with the same thing.
They are. They really are. And I love that they're struggling at it from opposite ends of the spectrum. They have to find a way to meet in the middle almost, and they are both struggling with their insecurities and both struggling with maybe not fitting in, or fitting in and being afraid to not fit in, and not fitting in and wanting to fit in, but then realizing that that's not what you want, and trying to belong somewhere. They both want the wizard to accept them. They both want love. They both want love. They both want. She doesn't know how to use her magic, and she wants magic. But then she wants to use her magic and doesn't know how to, and wants to prove herself, and she wants to prove herself as well. And they're both experiencing things in very different ways, and they have to figure out how to navigate through all of that, as many humans do. I just love that two very, very different human beings have to come together to figure something out, as two very different human beings, Ari and Cynthia, also have to come together and figure things out.
That's the greatest gift, that you guys are those things. I always say, like, you took the roles because we don't have to make this movie. You don't find the right Elphaba. You guys came into that room and showed me the real life Elphaba and Glinda, and there was no question. Like, I want to capture whatever that's happening there. And let's find this movie within that. And that was like a fascinating thing to go through. And even in the in Defying Gravity, that the moment where, and we get more into it as it goes in movie 2, which we won't talk about,
right.
but it gets further into that. But I love the even when Glinda hugs Morrible at the end. I think it's heartbreaking because
I think so too.
In a weird way, we are a little bit Glinda, that we're not able or willing to give up our comfort, our dream, for someone else.
My heart always breaks for her when I see that moment. My heart always breaks for her because it's a moment of, I hate to use the word weakness, but it's sort of like, well, what else is she supposed to do?
Yeah.
What next?
Yeah.
You know.
But there is an accepting of
Yeah,
normalizing it, and that's really what I love about what you did in this movie. And it's when people say, "Oh, what's the difference between a stage and a movie adaptation?" And you know, stage, the perspective of the audience is very different.
Yeah.
And so what I loved of us finding Elphaba, when that you give us, I think on the stage they have to play it bigger, right?
Yeah.
So Elphaba can have bigger walls.
Yes.
But the audience in a movie has to be there with you. And you always gave those moments. Did that really just happen? Like that part? Again, I'm singing again. I'm so sorry.
No, but it's very good. That was really good.
Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you.
I really like that. Well done.
We're doing a whole show.
That was
You and
good.
I, Oliver. It's gonna be that showed like, oh, she does want this.
Yeah.
She doesn't act like she wants this, but she does want this.
Yeah.
That hook.
Yeah.
For a whole movie is the most important thing.
Yeah.
If we don't want what Elphaba wants, this movie does not work, especially that this movie ends in defying gravity.
Yeah.
And you track that every time going into the Ozdust. Yeah. We did not have a lobby area for you to be nervous before coming in. No. So we're like, and you wanted to come in excited about this moment. Yeah. And so we had like 2 feet. I was like, you have 2 feet in the darkness. Alice moved the light so that you would be in the darkness in there. And we always say the truth is in the darkness. That's what I love about Alice's cinematography is the truth is in the darkness, the lie is in the light. Yeah. And so the truth was in there where you're excited with the hat. Yeah. You're about to come in. I remember us in there and Mark was like, what's going on? What are you? And he's looking at the screen and we're like, oh my gosh, this is heartbreaking. Don't go in. Don't go in. And we root for her not to go in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I truly believe that for Elphaba, and I don't know if anyone felt this way before we did this, but I always believe that she has hope, that she has a little joy in there, and that she wants to go to the party and have fun and join in with everybody. She wants that. And she might resist it consistently because that's all she's known how to do. She knows that she doesn't necessarily get the chance to join in. She's very isolated. And so she goes to this school and someone says, yeah, come join us. You know,
and gives you the hat.
And gives you the hat. My favorite thing in that scene is when she asks her to come and her reply is, why?
Oh.
Why? Yeah. Because she's never been invited to something before. That doesn't happen. So why do you want me there? Why? And because she wants it, she doesn't resist going. She gets the hat and she just sees how special it is. And it makes her happy. And she's so proud to put that thing on. And when she wears it, there is like pride. And look, I'm wearing my hat and I'm ready to go in. So that when we do see all of that hope fall away, it just is so painfully heartbreaking. But you can't get to the heartbreak if you don't have the joy. I truly believe that the heartbreak is always bigger when joy comes before it.
Yeah. And joy without heartbreak is naive.
It's naive.
Yeah. I think that's why when people are like, oh, this is wicked, that adaptation, you're like, no. Yeah. The best musicals have been subversive. Yeah. Have been allegories of something deeper.
Yes, something deeper. That's right.
A reflection or a vision for where we want to be or where we've been or a warning. And I love that this Wizard of Oz, Wicked, has always been that. Yeah. And when we got in there, we got to like get in the suits.
It's like, what are we doing?
And nobody was paying attention. They're like, yeah, you got to do Wicked, right? We're like, yeah, we're going to do Wicked.
Yeah, we're going to do Wicked.
And we got to do our version of Wicked. We got to cast it in the way that we wanted to cast it, and with Mark Platt and all, and them all in our co-conspirator circle, and fill Elphaba with a whole new thing, life, which is speaking to people. Yeah. Do you feel that?
I do, and all types of people. I think that's the thing that really has struck me, that people from many different walks of life and many different ages are connecting with this character. Yeah. Like 6-year-olds are connecting with this character. Yeah. They're drawing her.
And I think they're connecting to you because, in a way, your Elphaba of your presence is so large outside of this movie. Yeah. And you get to show the the little girl version of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's like, I think it's mind blowing for people to be like, okay, she's.
Yeah. I do feel like I'm like the bigger sister of Elphaba, you know, like that Elphaba, this version of Elphaba is, she would eventually grow into me, you know?
Yeah. Is that what you're thinking when you saw your younger self in the fall?
I think so, yeah. Like she needs to have support to turn into who she's going to become, you know? Elphaba's looking at her younger self, I'm looking at my younger self, you know? She needs to know that she's going to be okay, that she can get to where I am. Because little Cynthia didn't know any of this. She had an inkling of like what she could maybe do, but she had no idea that what was coming for her. Yeah.
What would you try to warn her about on her journey?
I think I would try to warn her about being hard on herself. I think I was particularly hard on myself as a teenager. I, you know, always trying to get it right, or I worked really, really hard all the time. And I think I could have afforded to have a little more fun. And I don't regret working very hard because I'm here now. Yeah. But I wish she had just a little. I wish she was a little looser. I wish she was a little bit more relaxed sometimes.
But isn't that nice that built you today?
Yeah,
in a weird way.
For sure.
We talk a lot about we talked a lot about this in our sort of pre-shooting stuff and about proving yourself.
Yeah.
And we built it into Elphaba a lot of this idea of you have to prove yourself, and then eventually she doesn't have to prove herself, not even to her best friend. She doesn't have to prove herself. I thought that was a really beautiful revelation. She has to surrender to herself. And I love that. I think about my own journey of trying to fit into a business that people, you know, I had no business in, I had no connections in, and I love that that we get to express this stuff through movies, and that other people out there who are going through the same thing, or maybe need that a little extra push. Yeah. Do you feel like in this movie, and I know we went through in this while we're making this movie, we're going through those ideas as well in our personal lives. Yeah. Did you feel like you had to prove were you trying to prove anything to anybody in this movie? It's a big movie, a big studio, you're gonna be seen all around the world.
I'm sure I was. I'm sure I was trying to prove myself. I'm sure I was trying to prove that I was worthy of the role. I'm sure I was trying to prove that I was good enough to be a part of something of this magnitude. I think I was probably trying to prove to myself as well that I could do it. It's a huge responsibility to play someone like this, to play this kind of character.
And that has 20 years of structure to it.
You know, and people know it, and people believe they know this person. They have ownership over this character, over this woman, and I wanted to prove that I could have a little ownership over her as well, that I had earned it too, you know? What about you?
Of course, proving yourself is I think just instinctual in our human brains. Yeah. Having a family changed everything. Yeah. It made me a better director with empathy, watching my kids learn about the world. It made me more empathetic to my parents, how they, there's, when your parents raise you, especially immigrant parents, there's certain ways that they needed to raise you to survive, and you probably needed to get there, but then you look back and you're like, I don't know about that method. But, and I love them very dearly, but there's that, and then having kids, just everything floats away. You're just like, I want to show them how to live a life. I want to show them the canvas that they can build off of, and that'll be in everything they watch me do. So when we're building something big, I'm down. Let's build a dream. This is what the Emerald City's going to look like. Which color green do you think it's going to be? And like that one, and then they come and they see your audition and like, wow, she's amazing. And then they meet you in person and you embrace them, and then you're in the witch's outfit and you let them touch the broomstick, and you're describing it's mangrove roots that they combine together when they grow. They become one, and their mind expands. And to me, that's who I'm proving myself to now. It's like I don't feel like I have to belong. I belong. Yeah. I brought my own family. But now I'm just trying to extend what I have been given how far can that go?
Yeah.
And it may not be a studio movie, it may not be people go see it, but it's like how specific can I be and how much do I want to reflect in this world and put it out?
Yeah.
Because I think that information is important
Yeah,
in
yeah.
some way. Yeah.
I wonder if you can feel how much pride the community of, like the film community is pushing your way. Like, how does that feel?
I'm not sure I fully let it in yet.
Yeah.
Because it's still a little early. You build a very protective shell.
Yeah.
You know, the internet can be brutal and the thing can be brutal. And so I built this thing that I didn't need it.
Yeah.
I didn't need the people. I didn't need the acceptance of the movie. I knew what we were doing was worthy because we put our hearts into this.
Yeah.
And I checked everything and I kicked every tire.
Yeah.
And I had all my insecurities of building the thing because I love making things, making little wonderful things. And so we did the work.
Yeah.
Now, whether people agree with me or not, that's a different idea, but I did the work. And so I'm just starting to let it in. I felt it on Crazy Rich Asians, and it took a while on Crazy Rich Asians to have this community that I didn't know that could love me, actually love me, and have a medium that I knew the power of, but didn't know if I could wield that power. Yeah. And I witnessed that there is still power in this medium.
Yeah.
And so to come into Wicked and say, I know how powerful this medium can be.
Yeah.
I know if we do it in a certain way and we immerse the audience in this and we cast it in a certain way, we bring the right people to tell the right truth in this, that the impact, with the right studio to support it, the impact can be large.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, it's like a little bit of validation, like we did it, but the reality of it is very different than in your head of the dream of it. And that I haven't quite come to terms with.
When do you think you will?
I think I have to work on movie too. So I'm like, again, I have to go home. I mean, I had a baby. I had 3 babies during this movie.
I know.
I have 5 babies. So I go home and I change a diaper and I'm with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the best. It's the best.
They're the best.
It's the best healing mechanism. Like your creative life, we make our own castles. That's my own movie at home. And then we go make the movie and it's just all creative all around.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, happens. So.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm really proud of you.
I just don't know that people realize, because we talk about how hard we worked and how hard I worked and Ari and the rest of the crew, but I don't know that people fully have grasped how hard you worked. Like the hours. I remember it like yesterday. I remember we were in Munchkinland and you sat on the step and we had stopped for something and I just remember thinking, he looked so tired. He's worked so hard. I don't think he's had that much sleep at all. And I remember I came over and like, are you okay? Have you had some sleep? And I don't think you had.
I probably had.
But you were so kind still. You were still really positive about what was to come. And you still kept going. And I watched you every day and I remember the soft shoes that you would wear to the set. And
the soft shoes.
These soft shoes covered in
They were
dust,
comfortable shoes.
And they were
very comfortable shoes.
And but I just love you and the work you've put in and the time you've put in and the heart and the effort and the energy that you have put into this piece, because it's a big piece to put energy into.
Thank you.
And I felt it every single day. And I think you may have been the Duracell battery for everyone who was on that set.
Thank you.
So I want to acknowledge how much you gave of yourself to this. There are little pieces of both Glinda and Elphaba in your heart for sure that you fed to us. So, I want to personally say thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah.
And all the thousands of hands that were on this movie, all of us being into it, it was like such a beautiful team and family. We're in this bubble for all this short amount of time. Yeah. And I do miss that bubble. Yeah. I do, but this conversations like this allow me to go back just for a little bit, just for a moment. I love you.
Love you.